So welcome to day 3 of the iRODS UGM. This is Thursday, June 10. Our first speaker is Christian Wolf from GRAU Data. He's going to talk about XtreemStore, among other things, and innovative software solutions for data archiving and metadata management, as well as a scalable object store software for archive medium tape. So take it away, Christian.
So hello, good morning or good afternoon. I'm Christian Wolf, Senior Systems Engineer and part of the product management team at GRAU Data from Germany. So we are a company who deals with storing data on tape. That's one of the main focus where the company is coming from. So, from the beginning, we were a manufacturer and developer of tape libraries itself, the hardware components, but then we switched to being more a software company. So we have more than 20 years experience in software for archiving data in combination with tape, or also now in combination with disk storage. So we have a product portfolio of mainly 4 products. And today we are dealing with a product which is developed to store data on archive medium tape. So we call this product XtreemStore, and it's a scalable object store on tape. We all know the situation in the field that you have a growing data set, and not all of these data need to be on expensive high performance disk. So you have some kind of data called cold data. They are inactive and could be stored to a component which has lowest total cost of ownership, and this is in our experience tape. So to be well prepared also for products to store data into, we have to do different decisions. One is how we could combine a leading software which dealing the data management to our software. There we decided to use the AWS API, the S3 command set, to push data into our solution or get it out of it. Then we want to be hardware independent, so you can use the servers you have, the disk storages or drive components you have, or you can order it by different vendors. We are using standards, no proprietary formats. So we are using tar balls for containerization. We are using LTFS on the tape cartridges itself. So these container technology we are using for packing data together reduce significant the objects to be managed by our software solution. We have in focus that also the high availability for the data, also when they are archived on archive media tape, need to be high availability or security on it. So we support multiple copies. We have mechanisms to provide our software components on multiple servers with failover scenarios. And we have replication mechanisms in our product so that you could store data on different locations. So all the components we have for our solution in our product could be user defined. So the solution could be well prepared on your needs. So if you need more caching mechanisms or more cache storage where the data come into, or more area where data are combined to containers or whatever, this all could be managed at your needs. And we support also for files that are larger than the archive media itself, a file spanning over several media. So in our product, we have a NoSQL database, which allows scalability. Also, our architecture is TCP/IP based on the communication channel. So it allows to use multiple servers to increase the throughput or having more security in the product. The controlling and monitoring is done by a REST interface we support. So there we have an own WEBUI on top of the REST interface, and it's also able to be used by other components to be integrated in other solutions. And for the monitoring itself, besides these first look into the product, we have more deeper integration to see more details, what happens in the solution by an Zabbix agent, so that you have an integration into a huger monitoring solution, which allows you to get a better picture of your solution. Besides the normal procedure to store data as S3 objects in our solution, is also able to use some functionality to add metadata to these objects in the S3 storage. And you can also use the standard mechanisms to query these metadata. So, and from our perspective, the tape has a unbeatable total cost of ownership, so it's a solution we focus on. So we are able, as described by the slide before, to scale out, to scale vertical and horizontal. We are able to handle efficiently billions of objects, so we also set up huge test environments with billions of objects to check that all working as we expected. And besides the number of objects, we also are able to handle petabyte or exabyte of data on tape. And because we use an S3 standard interface, a lot of leading components, software components in the market are able to use the XtreemStore as storage backend. So it doesn't matter if it's a pack system, backup solution, the FTP components, an HSM solution, or sync mechanisms, all is possible to connect to the S3 interface of our XtreemStore and then store the data on tape as the main archive storage, and also the disk which is used in between to handle the data. The administration done through CLI, command line interface, or through the web GUI we provide, and the monitoring, as described before, is used by Zabbix. The current status of our S3 implementation is, as you see, focused on handing over objects into the S3 storage and getting out of it. The main commands to list buckets, create buckets, get information, and so on. So in our product itself, we have to deal with different kind of data which are coming into the S3 interface or via the S3 interface. So we have to deal with huge objects or small objects. And because we are focused on working with tape as archival media, we have to take care that archival media is used in the most optimal way to do not to get no problems with the tape media or the drives itself. So especially for smaller objects, we need a process which combines data into containers. So all which is coming through the ingest nodes, going to the temporary disk storage where the S3 objects are located after they are ingested. Then we have mechanisms to build container and put them temporarily on redundant disks to then stream it to the tape cartridges itself. So we need this containerization for speeding up of the small objects in the handling. And we also have there with this containerization, we have the chance to handle corresponding data and using something like collocation. The data that belongs together from perspective of the leading application are also stored together on a tape cartridge. So especially when you want to retrieve data back, it's faster to get it. And also for us, when we have maintenance stuff to do in the archiving product in our XtreemStore, then we can focus on handling these containers, not on any single object on its own. And by this containerization, you can use several mechanisms to collocate data together, to combine them into container. So this could be done on metadata, which could be attached to the objects, for example, in medical, something like study IDs or whatever. So then you can push all this stuff through the S3 interface into the XtreemStore. And based on the rule sets for these containerization, then these are combined into the separate containers and then stored to the tape media. One of our use cases we have and productive system we support by now is archiving of medical data for a German company, which having 2 data centers in Nuremberg and in Hamburg, so that the XtreemStore is used to get data from PAC systems, store them in the XtreemStore, write data to the tape pools, and using the replication mechanisms to hand over the data also to a second location. So there we have 2 mechanisms in place. One of the mechanism is tape-based replication, though that on first data location, also the copy tapes are written and then physically transferred to the second side. And we have a mechanism which is on the container level with a replication on IP, so that we can hand over the data replicates to the second instance, to the second data center online via the network. And here another example for an archive layer we have in the field with our partner, development partner, Contac, which installs this system and the components for this customer, where we use iRODS and also our XtreemStore as tape media-based archive to hand over data via the S3 interface out of this our solution in the customer field. So therefore, we have a basic certification for the products iRODS in combination with the S3 interface to the GRAU data XtreemStore. Another solution which is used in the market is a combination XtreemStore via S3 as an backend to backup solutions. So especially here used with the component VEEAM to archive physical or virtual systems, put them then directly via an S3 connector into the XtreemStore, or having a combination with a cloud gateway, Cloud Connect gateway of VEEAM to put the data into the XtreemStore and hand it over to them. Here you have a small screenshot of our WEBUI. So our WEBUI is based on a, let's call it a virtual desktop in a browser, where you can then add your icons, your connections to your different XtreemStore instances. And when you then open one of these icons of an XtreemStore instance, there you have the basic configuration and monitoring or management of the XtreemStore instance. So you have the availability of jobs, the basic setting, you see which nodes are involved in the installation, which modules of our component running where, and storages and tape media and users which are integrated into this solution. So for the future, we have also one interesting product which is going to the market by now, and which is able to give more information on the metadata level This is one of our new components. It's called Metadata-Hub. And there's also a planned integration with iRODS to provide more metadata to the ICAT, which is used from iRODS, so that you have more information about your data. So this component is able to do tree walks about over your storages, doing a harvest for a lot of supported file formats and metadata types. And we have there several management or integration options. One is WEBUI, CLI, or Python APIs, which allows you to integrate it in different products. And that's a part where iRODS comes into and could use all of our functionality to get more information into its own ICAT. So only that you have a small information about how many or what the benefit of using something like Metadata-Hub. There we support more than 300 file types and more than 240,000 of metadata tags. So that's a benefit which comes into the future. So based on this information, you are then able to define in a better way what data have to be stored on or archived on tape media, which are necessary to be placed on expensive and quicker storage solutions. So that's what's coming up in the future. But the main focus is using iRODS in combination with XtreemStore to save storage space on your expensive storage areas. So this is where XtreemStore is located, and we think have a huge benefit for a lot of customers, especially in research area where a lot of data, huge data coming together. Yeah, when you need more information, you can talk to myself in the Slack channel or via QA section by now. The other partner of me in combination for these iRODS is our marketing and sales department, Mr. Harry Wyke, which could be also addressed when you need more information also on the perspective of sales channel. Yeah, I think these are the informations I have to share by now. I'm open for your questions. If there are any of them, feel free.
Very good. Thank you. And welcome to the community. Yeah, I know that the integration that was done, I don't remember if there were performance numbers involved. Do you happen to know any of that? I know that it was certified in terms of, we saw success through the test suite and made sure everything lined up. And I think we found one little thing and we cleaned it up, but.
Yeah, the main focus or all the experience we have for performance are done for the number of objects, and the other stuff, which is the throughput of the installation, is then very specific on the type that how it's integrated, how many tape drives are involved in the installation, and so there we could not give some numbers. But we know for the number of objects, we are very safe to handle up to 1.5 billion objects in a single instance, in a single bucket, S3 bucket of our XtreemStore. So we are very sure to handle the main problems we have. Right. And based on the situation that we are using the S3 interface and buckets, which are then in our XtreemStore maintained as tenant, then you are able to have also different kinds of setups. So you can say you need data which are very or have a high quality and do not or have to be secure for being or for getting lost. Then you use this tenant, for example, with 2 data locations, having 2 copies in different data centers, or you have data where you say, oh, they could be archived, it's nice to have, but they do not need this high security, then you can use another S3 bucket with a different setup, which says, okay, we have only 2 copies in the same data center, for example. So these are all these combinations we have, and these are all these combinations which then depends on the throughput data and all this stuff from performance issues.
Makes sense. Very good. Let's see, we might have a question or two. Let's see. We do have a question. Are the metadata extractors mainly system metadata and data that can be extracted from various file formats? Or is there any planned support for what we'd call, user metadata, that's kind of automatically derived? In other words, the kind of metadata that says storage tiering would operate upon in AVU land. Hopefully that question makes sense.
So we are mainly focused on the metadata which are included in several kinds of files. The easiest is the EXIF information in JPEG, but we are focused also on research data, so especially from microscopes and also measuring systems in the automotive industry and all this stuff. So these supported meter formats we have are also wider than the standard meter tags, which standard tools have integrated.
Yes, very good, very good.
And we are on the way also, that's a plan for the future, beginning of next year, using AI components for full text indexing and also for recognition of picture data, so that you have information if there is a circle, if there's a quarter, what colors are in a picture and all this stuff. So this is upcoming for next year.
I see. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and welcome. Talk to you more soon.